Welcome to the first video of this training. So here we have Blender when you open it for the first time. And so we will work with the version 4.4 here. And we will look at the interface. But first of all, when you open Blender for the first time here, you have some preferences that you can import for the last versions if you want. Here, so I have Blender 4.2 that is installed in my computer. I will just keep the preferences by default here. So you can create new preferences here. You have the language here, the theme, the key map, and we will keep everything here by default, okay? So I will just save new preferences here. And I will have my splash screen here with my last maybe files that I did open or new files that I can open as well. And quick access to the manual and things like that, okay? We will click somewhere and we will have Blender's interface here. So first of all, we will notice that we have different layouts here, okay? And all these layouts are made for specific tasks. So here we have the modeling layout, the sculpting layout, the UV editing layout, texture paint, shading, animation, rendering, compositing, geometry nodes, and scripting, okay? And we have the main layout, the one that we will use mostly, okay? This one is a kind of mix between modeling stuff and here animation a little, and you can make a lot of things here already. So that's why you are here by default. And this is the one that we will explore first deeply. Like this, you will know a little how it works. So here we have the collections here, and you can select the objects. By default, we have 3 objects here. You can select it in the 3D view as well. So you have 3 objects: the camera, the cube, the light. All Blender new files will start with that, okay? So here we have the properties when you can check the render engines, the output, here all of that, the view layer, the scenes. You have a few options here that are related to the object that you will select. For example, if I have a cube here, you will have a few different options that are only for mesh objects here. But if I take the lamp here, you can see that these options will change. And you can manage different options like the light here, the power of the light, and the color of the light, for example. And the same for the camera, it has different options, okay? So the first here until here, it will not move, okay? But if you select an object here, you can see that the rest will always move, okay? So the first ones are related to the file and the other are related to the selection. Here we have the animation here, the timeline. So you can see the number of frames and the play button, the stop button, come back to the beginning, go to the end. Okay, so here we will discover that into the animation section. We will have a full chapter about it. And for this, we will keep it like that, okay? And we have the main 3D view. We will have a full video about the 3D view here, but mainly it's here that you will do the modeling, the animation, a lot of things. And so that's it for this. Here we have the menu. So with this menu, you can just open new, select, for example, the import options, export options. If you need append, will let you append some part of other files if needed as well. And the save as, everything that you have in other softwares with the shortcuts as well that are here and that you can change if needed. You have the edit here, when you can repeat, when you can undo, redo. So it can be really useful. You have the preferences as well. We will have a full video about it. And you have the render tabs. It's where you will render an image or an animation with the camera and the light. For example, if I go there and I make a render image, you can see that I will have another here, another window that will give us the render of the cube from the camera here. Okay, you have the help menu with the manual and everything that can be useful. And by default, we are in object mode here. We have different modes that we will explore during the training. This mode, you can select the objects, you can move, rotate, scale, all the stuff that you will have to do with the objects when you want to make some modeling or organization. And you can use the add to add some new objects here, and the select menu here as well. You can see that all these parts can be a little reorganized. Like, for example, if I go there into the limit between two sections like that, I will have the double arrow and can manage this. Or for example, here, if I need more space, or here, if I need more space, for example, to organize things. And you can make something totally user-friendly when you want to change the this interface. For example, you can manage your own interface. For example, here, if I have the double arrow like that, I can make a right click here and make a vertical split like that or like that. Okay. If I have this vertical split here on the 3D view, I will have two 3D views now. And I can manage from a view here and from another view like that. So it can be useful to make some modeling, to have the right side, for example, and the front side. So very useful. And on each corner of each section like that, you can see that you have a little here arrow that you can click. And when you click it, you have a lot of options here that you can use. For example, here we could use the UV editor, so it's kind of 2D view here, or you can use the video sequencer if you want to make some videos or come back to the 3D view here. So you can make your own interface. And when you make your own interface, you can, for example, duplicate this interface, okay? And you can rename it. For example, I will call it my layout. Okay. And so now each time I will open Blender, I will have my layout that will be here. So can be useful to manage your own interfaces like that. You can right click on it and delete it if needed. I will just keep by default here. So I will come back. You know, when you see that when you made the split like that, you can come back to it and make a join after. So you can join left, join right, so like that, okay? And you will have the interface that you had before, okay? So it can be very useful. Or if you don't want the timeline, for example, you can come back here and make a join up or join down, for example, to have here only the 3D view. So can be useful to make your own layout. Blender is full of options and full of tasks that you can make yourself. So, and sometimes you will be more interested in modeling, sometimes more in animation, and you will need specific stuff that inside your interface. So it's good to have your own like that. So that's it for the discover of the interface of Blender by default here. We will discover more about these other layouts when we will go into the chapters of the specific tasks that there are for. And into the next video, we will see the preferences here and how to manage good preferences to start with Blender. In this video, we'll have a look at the preferences of Blender. So here, let's go into the menu Edit here and go to the Preferences, and let's have a look of all these tabs here on the left side here. And so, first of all, we have the interface. Something that can be good here, I have only HD screen, so it will be big here, letters, for example. But if you have 4K screens like that, you can use the resolution scale, and it will increase the size. So in case you want something more readable, okay. You can manage if you want the splash screen in the beginning here, the user tooltips or things like that. You can play with the editors here and the language. Even if Blender if English is not your first language, I really recommend to use English in the interface, because Blender is made in English, and all the shortcuts are made in English. So for example, Control E will be the Edge menu, and maybe in your language it will not work like that. So it's a good way to have something that is related to what it means to be, and it's important to keep it in English like that. You can understand more and yeah, remember more the shortcuts. Here we have the viewport, so you can manage the display here, the quality, everything. We can keep it by default here. We have nothing to change, for example. I don't think so. Here we have the lights and the studio light. So for example, you can manage the editor and how it works in the 3D view. By default, it's very good. We have nothing to change here. We have the matte caps. So the matte caps, it's a kind of lighting setup with an image. You can manage it from here, and you have all the matte caps. So you can import new matte caps if needed, but honestly, by default, you have already good things here, and we will manage that just after. We have the HDRIs here. So the same thing here. By default, you have some HDRIs here that you can manage to have to have kind of good interpretation of the light and the volume of your object. By default, they are here. You can add some here if needed, but honestly, the one that are already by default are good. Here we have the editing tab. Nothing to say really about it. You can manage a few things on ear, say on ear layout here, each layout here, but honestly, everything by default is good. Animation here, the same, everything by default, it's okay. The extension, it's important here. So by default, you see that you can continue offline or allow online access. So the extensions here, it's a new thing in Blender, and I will show you that by going into the website, Blender extensions. Okay. So in blender.org, you will have here a new section. Okay. In the website, you will have the extensions here, and you can download directly new functions into there's extensions here. So you have some add-ons, you have some themes as well if you want new themes, for example, and you can play with that, and you can import it directly from Blender. You don't have to go to the website, but here you can allow online access, and here you can see all the things that you can download and install directly, and like that you have really a lot of tools that you can add to Blender like that. Okay, so you have the add-ons, so it will be the one that are by default here in Blender, but we will add some by the extensions menu here. We have the themes as well. By default, you have only Blender Dark and Light. I use the Blender Dark. Blender Light is not for me, honestly, but it depends your preferences, and you can get extensions. You can get here from extensions. You have the themes that you can download directly. For example, if I want the retro gray here, I install it directly and I have it directly there, and I can come back to the Blender dark here. So it can be a good way to manage add-ons here with the extensions. And into the input, if you don't have numpad into your keyboard, and I really recommend you to have numpad in your keyboard, on your keyboard, if you make 3D, it will be really important, especially in Blender, because all the views shortcuts are in the numpad. So if you don't have, you can emulate it, and all the numbers on top of the letters will be used like that, like the numpad. But honestly, the best is to use the numpad. Same thing for the mouse here. If you don't have the third button that is used here for the navigation, if I use the third button here, I can just turn around the object. You can use it, you can use the emulate, and it will be the alt left click mouse. But honestly, again, it's the best to have a third button. Almost all the mouses have that, so it shouldn't be a problem. You have the possibility to use a tablet, that is especially good for texturing and sculpting. But for this training, as I know that a lot don't have any tablet, I will not use tablet. Maybe just a little for sculpting, for showing you, but honestly, I prefer to do it just by mouse, and like this you can train yourself. And if you are really interested in this task like sculpting or texturing, I really recommend you to use a tablet. So here I have the navigation. By default, everything is good. I really recommend you to remove maybe the auto perspective. So why I remove the auto perspective? Because by default, it can be a little disturbing, and it will change your view, especially if you work in non-perspective view. So I really recommend you to remove this one. It can be disturbing. The key map, everything is by default is good. You have all the shortcuts that you will use in Blender. You can change it. By default, we will not change it for the purpose of this training, but honestly, you can really change it, especially if you come from another software or something like that. So it can be really useful here. You have the system. Here it's good to manage a few things. For example, especially the cycles render devices. So here it's where you will put your graphic card in. So it will depend of the brand you have. The two first are for NVIDIA settings, NVIDIA cards. The third here, it's for this one, it's for Radeon here. So other GPUs, and here you have the Intel GPUs as well. Okay, so AMD, the first two one are for NVIDIA, this one AMD, and this one for Intel. In my case, I have NVIDIA, and the last generation of NVIDIA, it's the RTX. So mine is not really the last generation because it's RTX 3, but it's already a good card. And you can even use your processor here, so your CPU. I recommend to use only GPU by default, and after to make tests, if when you make a render it goes quicker with your processor, usually I keep it like that. Okay, so everything else here we will not change it, we will keep it like that. The save and load, so you have here the possibility to save here the versions of your files, auto save every 2 minutes, so it should be enough when you work on something. I recommend you, when you start a file, to not keep the unsaved. I recommend you to save it somewhere into a folder, and like this it will go into the autosave. If you don't, it can be a little tricky for Blender to manage it well, and it happens that you can lose your work. So yeah, if you want to, it's the best to save it by default somewhere. And you have the file path. So by default here, it will give you to see Windows fonts for the fonts, for example. The texture, if you are textures banks already into your computer, you can use here. You can manage the folder here. Same for the sounds. Same here for the render output and things like that. So yeah, can be a little, especially for textures, it can be good to have it because textures, we will use it a lot. It depends of the task you will make with Blender, but usually textures, it's good to have it. We have the applications as well. For example, if you have an external image editor like Photoshop or GIMP or whatever, you can select the exe file in Windows and maybe the DMG in Apple. I'm not sure, but I'm sure that in Windows it will be the exe file of Photoshop, for example. And when you are into the interface of Blender with textures or things like that, you can directly change here. For example, if I manage a new texture here, okay, I will just create a new image to show you. Okay, so just a new image by default here, like that. Okay, and this image I can go there and edit externally. So if I manage the good path here into my preferences, it will go directly to Photoshop or the other software that you use. I use Photoshop for 2D, but or other softwares that you use, and it will open the image, and you can manage some tasks in Photoshop into your textures, for example, and re-import it when you save it in Photoshop. After you go there and you make a reload, and it will come back with the new texture that is reloaded. So yeah, it can be useful sometimes to have this well set with the image editor, especially. The text editor is good for scripting if you will make some scripting in Blender, but we will not make too much we will not make during this training. It's really too specific, and that's it. So it was the preferences. When everything is done and that you change something that you are sure that you don't want to change, you go there and you save preferences. By default, it will change it, but sometimes in case Blender crash or something like that, it's better to save the preferences. I will just go here into the extensions and go into the add-on, and I will search for key. Screencast keys here. So screencast keys is an add-on. Here we will have screencast keys. Okay, so you can see that now it's available, and it's an option that will give us here the possibility to show you directly here the shortcuts. So you see that when I make G, you will have the shortcut here. So that's it. Now I will change the colors maybe and the font, but I will make it on my side. So just to show you how it's easy to add a feature in Blender. Okay, now for the view here, we have a few things that we can change by default. I like to use different shading options. The matte cap here, it's the one I really prefer to use by default. Okay, and here I like to enable cavity like this. I see more. You see that when it's not here, you have something a little flat. Here I really see what I do with the edges, and so yeah, I prefer to work with cavity as well here. For the rest, I keep it by default here, and when you change something into this section, it's not a preference, it's just belong to your file. Okay, and you can manage Blender to open this file every time you open Blender. To do that, you go to File here, and you go to Default and Save Startup File. So now each time I open Blender, I will have this file ready to use, and I will have the same scene here, but I can change even my scene. I can add other objects or things like that, or maybe no objects. Maybe you want to start with an empty file, and it could be very good, or with an object that you use always, and here with different views here, possibilities, like for example here this matcap and everything, and like this you are sure that you open Blender with these settings here. So that's it for the preferences. We will see into the next video how to organize a scene. In this video, we'll see how to organize a scene here. So everything that is related to the organization of a scene is here. It's the outliner. It's there that you will create some collections and organize your objects here. For example, here I have a file that is already organized. So you see that you have all the lights here. I can enable them into the 3D view. You can see the lights that are here. Or I can enable them into the render, for example. I can enable the objects. I can make some subfiles, subfolders here. So we will talk about collections into Blender because it's collections. So we will have sub collections here, and you can, for example, select all the objects here, enable them in render or not, or the furnitures here, or the windows, the structure, the walls, the ground, everything that is here in as a volume in a scene here. Okay, so for example, we could create a new collection by doing this. We will create a new collection. Perfect. And this collection, we'll call it plants. We have only one plant here, but it can be, for example, this object that we will want to put into this collection. So you have two ways to do that. You can do it directly from here, this interface into the outliner. So you can go into furnitures. We will have the potted plant here. I can just click and drag the plant here and put it in the plant new collection. Okay, and now I will have the possibility to just hide here the plant when I want. And what I can do is, as the plants here as are objects, I will just put it into the collection objects like that. Okay, when double clicking, you can just rename the collection, or you can rename the objects directly as well, so it can be useful. And so it's really important to organize your scenes like that, because when you open your Blender file after years or something like that, if everything is named cube and have only the collection by default, it will be complicated to manage this. If you have maybe, I don't know, 30 objects that are just named cube, it will be complicated because you start modeling by cube very often. So yeah, it's important to organize things. I recommend you to organize the files by folders like that, by collections, and that is something that everyone can understand. Okay, so when you open, or it's someone else that open your file, it will understand what's happening, because sometimes after years it can be a little confusing opening Blender files like that. So yeah, here it's the possibility to make it from this interface. Okay, but you can make it from another from the 3D view as well. So for example, here, if you have maybe, I don't know, I will take the frames here. Okay, I will take the frames. By shift clicking, I can select the frames here, all the frames that are here. So I can see that here it's highlighted, so it tells me that it's inside furnitures here. And I can make the shortcut M. M, it's move to new collection or to a collection that is already here. As I want to create frame collection, I tell new collection, and this collection will be frames. Okay, good. So now I have all my frames into my collection frame, and I can just hide it when I want, okay, easily. So what I will do now, I will take this frame collection here and put it inside the object. Okay, very easily, click and drag, very easy to do. You can just make the same for objects or whatever. And so you have the same possibility for books, for example. We can select the books here, select the books like that, and make a new collection with M, add it to a new collection. Here it will be books. I create that, and now I just arrange my books into my objects. So like that, I will have more options to hide objects and manage objects very easily, okay? So when you make control click on a folder like that, on a collection, it will hide everything else. So can be very useful as well. As you can see, you have the possibility to select everything that is inside a collection. So you can make select objects and it will select your objects here directly. You have a lot of options there. You can create new collection. You have the possibility to duplicate a collection if needed, for example. You have the possibility to copy and paste, so it's a very easy way to copy and paste objects into another file. Like for example, if I make copy here, open another file and make a paste, it will paste all the objects that are inside the collection. You can delete. Be careful because delete will only delete the folder and not what's inside the folder. If you want to delete everything, you will use delete TR key here, okay? You can select or deselect objects. You can here use the visibility if you want to hide everything, but it's the same that's the little button here, okay? And you have the possibility here to create some colors for your collections, to organize things with colors, so it can be used as well. I don't use it but a lot, but it can be very useful actually. Okay, so and after you have the possibility to use the view and everything that is already here with other things. We will talk more about mark as asset into the chapter about the asset browser, and for the rest it's not here. We will maybe talk about other options here with into the other chapters of the training. So that's it. It's very important to rename your objects, organize them when you have a full house like that, a project with a full house with the garden and the plants and everything. So it's really important to organize things very well, and something that you can that will be user friendly when you come back to your file like that. Okay, so that's it for organizing a scene. It's very useful. Yeah, something that I wanted to show you as well, it's here. Okay, you can add other options to your here interface. Like for example here, is it possible to select your object or not? And you can see that now you have a new button here. Or maybe we want to exclude them into the render or something like that, so or disable it in viewport. But this one can be very important. Like for example, you did put some lights here, and these lights you don't want them to move. Like for example, it's impossible to move. Now my mistake, I can select and maybe move my light here, but I want to lock everything like this. I'm sure that it will not move, so I just disable selection, and whatever I do, I cannot select here the lights. Okay, so I can select only my objects. So can be very useful sometimes to have the lights into the interface like this. When I go into render view here, I will have my full light like that, but I cannot select them and move them. I will manage only the objects. Okay, so we will talk about these options later, but here it was the possibility to organize scenes, and it's very important to have something user friendly. It's a little time consuming, but in the end, it's a little time consuming to make it, but in the end, it's a full gain of time, because it will be easier to organize your things after. And when you come back to your file, you can just copy and paste, things like that. So yeah, just a little precision. This file here is from the, and we will use some into the training. Okay, so I will go into Blender demo files here. So here you can see that you have into blender.org, when you did download Blender, you will have here the demo files, okay? And from these demo files, you have a lot of possibilities to experiment. So I did download that one and maybe changed it a little just to show you the organization like that. But you have a lot of files that you can download to experiment, and we will use them during the training. So yeah, it's better to follow the training and after to open these files and play with them, because you will have a lot of things that you will not understand when you open these files if you are a beginner. But yeah, don't hesitate to go there and to experiment on things. It's really useful, and you will have a lot of things to learn by these files that are made by professionals. So yeah, very interesting stuff here. And as usual with Blender, it's free, and you just have some license here. For example, here is CC0 by Blender Studio, so I don't have to make anything, but CC BY, you will have to tell that it's Blender Studio that made it, for example, okay? Or here, for example, CC by Daniel Bistek here for the hairs, like that. Okay, so yeah, I really recommend you to make it after the training. And anyway, we will play with these files later during the training. So that's it for here organizing a scene. Into the next video, we'll have a look of the 3D view, a deeper look of the 3D view here, and what we can do with that. In this video, we'll have a deeper look of the 3D view here. So all this part of the interface. So first of all, on the left corner here, we have the way to select objects, okay? So what I will do, I will just duplicate this cube a few times, okay, with shortcut Shift-D and right and left click, just like that, okay? Like this you can see a little more, and I will just remove these two other objects. Like this, I only have cubes here, okay? So the first way of selecting is by making a click and drag, and to have here the select box, okay? So you select what's inside the box, okay? And you can use it with the select circle as well. So everything that is inside this, it's more like a paint tool, the circle one, okay? So can be useful as well. And you have the lasso here where you select your objects like that, okay? And these options here are related to this here, this tool, okay? We have a few tools here. So the first tool is the select one. When you click and drag here, you select what's inside, and every time it makes a new selection, okay? So when you use that, you add to your selection. So it can be useful to use like that. Here you have the remove from your selection here, okay? Here you have the invert selection here, like this. And here we have keep the intersection of the selection. So those two here are less useful, but the three first ones are very important to understand, and they work with the three tools here: the select tool, the select lasso here. Okay. Now we have the cursor here, and it moves the cursor, the 3D cursor. So the cursor here is really important to manage a few things. Like for example, you can move your objects to the cursor. So if you move the cursor like that, you can select an object and put it with a right click. You can see you can with Shift S, sorry, selection to cursor, and the object will go to the cursor directly. So it can be useful. To put back the cursor into the center of the 3D view, use Shift C, okay, and it will come back like C like cursor, so easy to remember. Okay, now we have here the different tools that we will discover more into the next videos. But here we have the annotate tool that is good to annotate directly in 3D like that. You can just play with the different tools. You have the line, the polygons here, like for example to make some shapes like this. It's only for annotate and help you for showing something into for your collaborators or something like that. Okay, you can erase them by using the annotate eraser here like this. Okay, or just use with here just a control click here, and it will erase everything. So you can change the color as well. If you go there, you will have here into the item, the view, you have the annotate here. You can change the color and a few other options like that. Okay, but yeah, mainly I will use it to show you things that I want to show you. Here you have the measure tool here, so easy to measure between two objects like that. Here you have your here data that is directly here, so it can be useful as well. And the rest of the tools we will show it into other videos like this. Here we have the option to move along global settings or local settings. For example, let's say you want to move your cube. You see that it's related to the different axes of the 3D view directly. So here it's the global. But if I make a rotation of my cube, you can see that there's arrows will not move, will not rotate with it. But if I use the local, so it will rotate with it, and it will be good to make some other possibilities of moving the object. Okay, so I may just Control Z to come back to it. So here it can be interesting. Here you have the pivot point as well. So by default, it's a median if I make a rotation like that. But if it's, for example, the 3D cursor, it will make a rotation around the 3D cursor. So it will be the new pivot point. So we will see more of this into the rest of the videos. Here you have the snapping. You can snap the objects into different things that we will see during the training. The proportional editing, we will have a full video about it, and it's really powerful tool. And now we have different things that can change the 3D view here. Okay, so first of all, you have the selectability and visibility. You can select and show your objects into the 3D view only. It's not here. It's really something that is specific to the 3D view. For example, if you have different lamps here, I will add a lamp. Okay, and duplicate that. For example, I don't want them into the 3D view. I go there and I remove everything here. Same for selectable. Okay, so there's options here are here in the 3D view as well. Okay, so it can be interesting sometimes. I come back to it with Control Shift D, and here we have the possibility to show everything that is overlay or not. For example, here I select my object. You can see that I have an overlay outside to tell me that it's selected. But if I remove this option, I have only the geometry and what will be into the render view in the end. So it can be useful, for example, in some ways. You have a lot of things that you can overlay or not, like for example, the floor here, or the y-axis, or the x-axis. You can see in red and green here. You have the z-axis that you can activate as well in blue, and a few other things that you can show like the wireframe here can be interesting. Like this, you see all the faces of the cube directly into the interface. So, and the face orientation, everything. So can be useful sometimes. Mostly I use this to show directly only the volumes here can be useful. Here you have the possibility to make an X-ray, so to see inside the object, but usually I don't use it that much. I prefer to use DES4 here. And DES4, they are accessible with a shortcut, the Z shortcut. So the first one is the wireframe view. Like this, you see everything transparent except the wireframes of the edges and the vertices that are here. Here we have the solid view, it's the one by default. Here we have the viewport shading. You can see the shading of your object and a few options of lights here that you didn't have before to change the ambience of the visibility here directly. So it's not a render view, it's only something to work with quickly and to have a quick overview of what will be the shader and what will be the volume of your object. It's not really a render view. The real render view is here, okay? And it will take, for example, the option of your lights, okay? If I put my lights here and put it into the right here power, okay, you will can see that it will update directly into the scene. So it can be useful to see directly what you have into a scene, okay? So usually I use the Z shortcut. The Z shortcut is the same option here for these four options. You have the wireframe, you have the rendered, you have the solid, and the material preview. So it will call this spy menu here, and you can go to solid, for example, to wireframe very easily, or to rendered, or to material preview. So very easily, and a very powerful tool. There's the spy menus here. So accessible with the Z shortcut, okay? And there you have the options that you can manage here into your viewport shading. You can add some shadow, for example. You can manage here random if you want, for example, the random here. And each object will have a different color. So it can be useful when you have objects that overlaps each others, for example, to see which one is one. You can use texture, material if you have material, or just a single and change the color for every object here, okay? So by default, I think it's material and I will not change anything like that, or maybe object. You have the possibility to use X-ray, but it's the same option on top. The shadow, as I told you, you can use shadow. The cavity, I already use it by default. You can increase the ridge and the valleys here like that. You can use depth of field into the 3D view. I don't recommend that. And the outline is good to activate it by default as well, okay? You have an option that we didn't see yet is the flat option. So it doesn't give you anything, just the a flat surface. So not really interesting, actually. It's better to use it, to use the cavity mode here, the matcap mode here, okay? So that's it for the 3D view. You can see that you can organize a lot of things here already. We will see how to navigate. We can see that you have all these gizmos here and tools to navigate into your 3D view, and we will see more about that. You can activate or deactivate here these gizmos. So we will use that into the next video, and I will show you to do this with the shortcuts for sure. In this video, I will show you how to navigate into the 3D view. So first of all, it's really important to be comfortable with this concept. And I really recommend you to be aware of what will happen here. So first thing we will do, we will remove all of these objects by selecting them and remove them with the delete key. And I will add with Shift A like add, I will add a mesh monkey. Monkey, it's, you can see it's Suzanne here, and it's an object to make some experiments in Blender. It's like really the specificity of Blender. It's the object of Blender. It's Suzanne. So what we will do to make it more beautiful, we'll make a shade smooth here and go there and add a modifier generate subdivision surface with 2 here like that. So we will learn over all of that after, but it's just to have a nice object to manage here and turn around, and I will show you how to make that. First of all, we have here into the 3D view here, we have the possibility by just click and drag here the axis that you want here to turn around the object, okay? So here it's a kind of orientation here gizmo that will give you the different axes that you have in Blender. The x-axis is the red axis, the red axe. Here you have the same for the y in green and the z in blue. Okay, you have the possibility, as I told you, to activate or deactivate these axes like that. By default, only the X and the Y, it's here and it's enabled, and it's enough, I would say. Okay, so here it's the first thing. When you double click on an axis like that, it will give you here a full view. Like for example, here I'm in front view like that. If I click on X, I will be into the side view. If I click on negative Y, I will be here into the back view. Okay, same thing into the Z-axis, top view here, and again it will be the bottom view like you can see here. Okay, so very useful, and all of this it's possible to use it with shortcuts, and I really recommend you to use shortcuts to navigate into the 3D view. So first of all, the middle click, you turn around your object, okay? And then everything will be into the numpad. So numpad 1, it will be the front view. Numpad 3, it will be the side view into the right. Numpad 7, it will be the top view. And with the 3 here, you will have the possibility to have the main views like that, because with control, if you add control to these 3 shortcuts, like control 1 here, you will have the back, so it will invert. Control 3 here, you will have the left, invert as well. Here, control 7, you will have the bottom view. So control 1, control 3, control 7, and 1, 3, and 7. Okay, so already you have things to manage with the numpad that are very important here. Okay, then you will have the possibility to make rotations with the numpad just with 2, 8, 4, and 6. Okay, so with the arrows like that, you will just manage your view every maybe 10 degrees or 15 degrees, I would say. And same with 8 and 2. So it will increment like that the rotation of your view, okay? Here we don't make any manipulation to the object, we just change our point of view, okay? And here it's the same. For example, if you have one view that you want to invert, you can use the 9 and it will invert the view, okay? So very good one as well. And that's it. So you can zoom in, zoom out with the scroll of the mouse, or use the control middle click to zoom without increment, okay? And when you want to use it by here without shortcut, you have the tool that is here. The end is to just move, okay, on a plan like this. So if you want to use the same here, you have the shift middle click with the shortcuts, okay? Shift middle click, it's the same than this one. If you have a camera here, I will add a camera and make a shortcut like this to have here the right angle. So I have the camera here. If you have a camera into your view, into your 3D view, you can use the camera view like that. The camera view is 0 into numpad, okay? If you have different cameras that you want one active or one that is not active, so for example, I will just make this and make RZ like that, okay? And I will use a control 0 for this one to have the view of this one. If I want the view of this one, I select this one and I make control 0, okay? So it can be interesting to change the camera views. You can see that when the camera is active, you have a little triangle that is black here, and this one is not active, so it's transparent. So it's only for cameras, this. And then you have here the perspective and the orthographic view. So this one is very important really because it's something that doesn't happen in real life. In real life, everything is in perspective because we have two eyes. So it will always give some perspective. So when you have some perspective, you will have these perspective lines like this that goes to a point that is somewhere there, okay? And you can see that it's not parallel. But if you use, and I will just remove this, if you use here the orthographic view, everything will be flat and parallel, okay? So it can be very interesting. So in what case we will use this orthographic view? I use it always for modeling, orthographic view, very often. And why I use it for modeling? Because when you model, usually you have you can have some images, references in the back of your file, for example, or behind the object. And you can see that if I put, for example, 2 or 3 Suzanne's here like that, okay? So you can imagine that you will have this one behind. When you are in front view, in here orthographic view, the one that is behind is exactly the same, okay? But if you use perspective mode, you can see that you will have something that is totally deformed here. So it will not have the same shape, it will not have the same size because of the perspective deformation view, okay? So be aware of that when you model with reference images. It's very important to only have the orthographic view. And this is the numpad 5. Numpad 5 you can change, and from user perspective to user orthographic, here you can see that it's always written here. So this is very important to manage your views here. And everything is almost into the numpad. So what you can use as well is the plus and the minus to zoom in, zoom out, but it's not really something that we will use often because we will have always the scroll of the mouse. And one that is more important than everything here and that I want to show you, it's this one. So I will duplicate a few Suzanne's here like that. And let's say I would like to focus on that one. So I could make here the drag with the hand tool, for example, and try to zoom in. But when I will turn around, it will, so I will have to make it again. And when I turn around, so it's not totally, and finally it's in the center. So a lot of things to make that, okay? Zoom in, zoom out, click and drag until you have the right view. And it's not really in the center of the view, as you can see. It's really difficult to manage by hand like that. So you have a shortcut for this. You select your object and you use the dot into the numpad, okay? So the one that is under the 3. So it will focus directly to your selection. So very important one. I select this one, I make a dot, and that's it. So it's really the focus into the object. So very important. It works with multiple selections. Like for example, let's say you have a group of Suzanne here. Okay. If I select the 3 Suzannes here and make a focus on these ones, so it will focus, it will make a kind of point between the 3 here, and I will have my selection like that into my frame. So very, very important. Like for example, if you have a Suzanne that is very far, very, very far, it will be very difficult to find it actually. So especially in perspective, you see it's there. I know where is it, but it's very far and sometimes it's difficult to find. So what I do usually, I select by here. And like this, I can come back there and use the focus. And now I have my object that is directly here. So you can select by with the outliner directly. And now you can just focus with your object with the numpad. So very important. If I take the first one, the one that is in the center, I come back to the center of my scene. So very important one. So this one, it's the most useful. It works even with other parts. Like for example, we will see the edit mode later. Okay, but in edit mode, I can select parts of the object, like for example, just this face. And if I make a focus into this object, when I zoom in, I'm not really where I want, okay? So I can select here into edit mode and make a focus into only that face. As you can see now, I turn around this face only. And it's very important to manage well your view. So when you want to go somewhere into your file and to focus around this point, make your selection well and use this dot under the 3 into the numpad view. It's the most important to navigate well. And like this, you will save a lot of time turning around your object with shift and manage it like that and say, oh, I'm not here. Oh, where is it? Oh, yeah, no, you just use that and it will work directly. Okay. So a very important one for the navigation and to well navigate into Blender. So that's it for the navigation. We will see the next chapter now. We will enter into chapter 2 and we will start to model. And for this, we will have to learn and to see the different mesh primitives that are in Blender. And we will see that into the next video.